Boker Tov, today's daf is Daf Yud Zayin in Baba Kama, as we learn. For of all those who were killed. Tana Rabbanan from the top of the page, the last words on the line. Tana Rabbanan. We're discussing the pasuk had brought down the Gemara discussed the kavod that they did for Chizkiyo when he died. It got into that topic because of the psukim, as we talked about we got into that because we said that Nezek Sholem is paid from all your assets, and what does it mean? Aliyah, use the lashon of Aliyah. What is Aliyah? So that means good things, the best of the stuff, and it talks about how they did. They honored Chizkiah when he died with good stuff. With the good. So the Gemara says, "Tanabana Kvod Asulav Mosa." They did honor for Chizkiah when he died. Zeh Chizkiah Melech Yehuda sheyatzu lefanav shloshim v'shisha elef chalutze katef. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. The pasuk says, "V'chavod Asulav." They did honor for him. Lo, the word lo, lamed vav is gematria 36. They learned from that there were 36,000 warriors who went out in Avelis. Chalutze kesef means that they had ripped off their shoulder garment, and they went out with bare shoulders to show that they were in mourning for Chizkiah. That was the honor that they bestowed upon him. Why is that such a great honor for Chizkiah? Chizkiah was a tzaddik. They did that kind of an honor for Achav as well, who was a well-known Rasha. What the honor that they did, and this is covered also with Moso, it's not referred just to the warriors who went out in mourning attire, but even though there are 36,000 of them, but the honor that they did from us, they put us El Shenichu Sefer Torah Mitaso on his bier. They put a Sefer Torah. But they said, "Kaim zeh mashikasu b'zeh." This great man Chizkiah fulfilled all what was written in the Torah. This man Chizkiah, and as he put the Torah next to Chizkiah to show that he fulfilled everything that was written in the Sefer Torah. What's the big deal? They do that bisman, as I also said the Gemara. At the time of the Gemara, they also take out a Sefer Torah in honor of the deceased. Zafikum afkinan. They take out the Sefer Torah. They take it out to be at the funeral. But they don't actually put it on the bier as they did. That would be considered inappropriate for a commoner or a common rabbi today. But for Chizkiah, they even put it on his bier. Even if we do put the Sefer Torah today on people who die in our time, rabbis, we don't say that they fulfilled everything in the Torah. We put the Sefer Torah, they represented Torah, they learned Torah, but you don't say that they fulfilled everything. Amar Rabba Bar Chana, Rabba the son of Bar Chana, I guess Chana was the grandfather or the grandmother. Probably, I think the name Chana here is not a female. Amar Rabba Bar Chana, Havayazilna Bahadid Rabbi Yochanan. He wants to bring down that he discussed this question of what do you say today? In other words, what is the they take out a Sefer Torah, they put it out there, but they don't say that he was Mekayim everything. What's the proper thing? So I was going along with Rabbi Yochanan, the Mishal Shmaita, to ask this question. And then at that point he went into the bathroom. Some say or I was waiting for him. So I asked him this question. I was following him to ask him this question about what's the proper thing to do at, what do they do especially for Chizkiah that we don't do today? Lo Pashilon, he didn't give me a decision. Wasn't Poshet the Shaila ad the Mashiach until he washed his hands after exiting the bathroom. He put on tefillin mavarach, and he made a bracha, presumably on the tefillin. I don't think he means Asher Yotzar. I think he means on the tefillin. Presumably that's what he means, but he made a bracha. In any case, until he put on his tefillin, made a bracha, he didn't answer me. But then he told us, he gave us the answer. Afilu kayim amrina. We say today also we can take the Sefer Torah out. We put the Sefer Torah on the bier of a great tzaddik who died. Lima lo amin, but we don't say that he taught Torah like to call Yisrael. I don't say that he taught Torah. It says the Gemara, Ivam Mar. What do you mean? What's better, learning Torah or Maisa? We know that. The whole idea is that limud is Rabbi Mamar gadol limud Torah. Learning Torah is very good, is great. Shatalmud maybe Maisa, because if you learn Torah, you'll come to action to do it. So what's greater, action or learning? The purpose is lilmod amanas lasos. lilmod amanas lasos, to learn on the condition to do. Because if you learn, you'll be able to do. So do is on a higher madrega. So how do you say that? We say he was Mekayim the whole Torah, right? But we don't say that he taught Torah. So Lokasha, Lemigmar, like Murray. Kurt, I think, put his finger on it. The difference is to learn or to teach others. To learn Torah, that's one level. Maisa, doing action, doing the mitzvahs, that's greater than just learning. But like Murray, to teach Torah to others, that's greater even than Maasa. That's his point. Says Rashi, Lemigmar lasmo Maisa other. If you're just learning for learning yourself, then Maisa is greater. Action is greater than learning. Like Murray, but to teach others, Adif mi Masa, that's even greater than Masa. Hilkach limit lo amrinan. So we say, I mean, some of these rabbis taught others too, but maybe not. Maybe you say that you could even take a great tzaddik or a person who learned Torah. You could take out the Sefer Torah, put it on his beer, and say, Kayim zeh masha kosev bazeh. This one was Mekayim, everything that was there. But we don't say that he taught others. Yes, learning, yes. Mekayim is even better than learning. But teaching others, we don't say that unless he taught others. The pasuk says. Now, if you look back on Beis and Beis, look back at the beginning of the Masechta, at the very beginning, we said, how do you know this business about that the shore is Karen? Shore has three kinds of damages that it does. Either Karen, which is unusual, like if it gores, if it's not known to gore and it gores, or if it ate something, that's another kind of damage, or regal with its feet. How do we know regal? So he brought down this pasuk. Pasuk says, "Mishalche regal ashor b'chamor." Right? They send their feet. Right? What do they send? The feet of the shore, the ox, and the donkey. So now we look at the whole pasuk. The Gemara says before the end of the parak, the pasuk says, what is the beginning of the pasuk? Ashreichem zori al kol mayim. Happy are you who plant, who sow on all kinds of water. Mishalche regal ashor b'chamor. That's the pasuk. The end pasuk mishalche regal shemor that we learn out. Where does it say the pasuk about regal? That's the pasuk. Mishalche regal ashor b'chamor. They send the feet of the ox and the chamor. So you see that the ox and the chamor, the shore and the chamor do damage with their feet. But what is the pasuk referring to? What's the drasha? That ashreichem zorei kol osik b'torah mitzchas. Whoever is occupied with learning Torah and acts of kindness or tzedakah, zochel and Hashem, you're going to get the nachla of two tribes. Who are the two tribes? The two tribes were compared to the shore and the chamor. What do we mean by that? So Shenemar says, pasuk says, ashreichem zorei. Happy are you who plant. What's plant? Dain's real tzedakah. Planting refers to tzedakah. Shenemar zira lechem l'tzedakah b'kitzru l'fi chesed. Plant in charity and reap with kindness. So even though if you look at the words, we started by saying kolosi b'torah uv'gemilos chasadim, and then he says zira dain's real el tzedakah, but it's tzedakah and chesed. The difference between tzedakah and chesed, tzedakah is what you do with your assets. Chesed is you do with your body. Tzedakah is your charity. You give your money. You donate something, but the chesed is what you do. Your kindness can even be. I mean, tzedakah. If you do tzedakah, that's also a chesed. But a chesed can be with your assets or with your body. So chesed includes. Chesed is more inclusive, right? It's charity plus it's things that you do. If it's not charity, you donate your time, you help somebody. That's included in chesed. Whereas tzedakah is simply with your assets. In any case, so ashrei. Shechem happy you zorei. Zorei refers to tzedakah, as we see zero lechem the tzedakah b'kisru b'chesed. A mayim el Torah shenemar the pasuk is kol hoy kol tzamei lechula mayim. Whoever is thirsty for Torah, whoever's thirsty, go to water. Go look for water, and that's Torah. And how do we know it's Torah? The pasuk goes on to say, and you can acquire with no money things that doesn't take any money to buy. Just go learn Torah. Doesn't cost anything to learn Torah. So Mayim refers to Torah. So it says, if Ashreichem, happy are you who sow, who plant, that refers to tzedakah. And Al Kol Mayim refers to Torah. So if you occupy yourselves with Torah and tzedakah and chesed, you'll be zocha to what? To the two, to the inheritance of two tribes. The two tribes indicated by the end of the words, Ashreichem Zorei Kol Mishalche Regal Ashor Chamor, setting the feet of the shore of the Chamor. Who is the shore of the Chamor? Shnemer Zochel Shesham Zochel Akila Kiyosef. Zochel to a canopy, meaning a canopy, the canopy under the tent of Yosef. Ben Paras Yosef. Yosef is a fruitful bow. Benos, his branches. Soad Al Shur go out and climb over the wall. So you see that Yosef is compared to a shore. So Alei shore means a wall, but the drush is that it's a shore. So he's compared to an ox. To the nachal of Yisachar, the Chsiv Yisachar chamor gorem. Yisachar is a strong ox, a strong donkey, right, or an ass, whatever. Yisachar chamor gorem. So therefore, if you learn Torah and you was chesed, you be zocha to the blessings of Yosef and Yisachar. Some say oivav nafel if it goes up that his enemies will fall before him like those of Yosef. It says that b'chor shoro hadar lo, right? B'chor shoro hadar lo v'karnei re'em karnav. He has the horns of a re'em, a large animal, like a beast. V'hem amim yenagach yachtav af se'aretz. With those horns of Yosef, the horns of the ram, which is the brach of Yosef, he will be able to gore and push the enemies away to the ends of the world. So you see here that, again, what's the schus of a person occupies himself with learning Torah and chesed? It'll be zocha to the brachas of Yosef and Yisachar, and some say that his enemies will fall before him, like the enemies of Yosef will fall, as indicated by Bor Yenagach Yachtav. He'll be zocha to his enemies will fall like the enemies of Yosef, and he'll be zocha labina. He'll merit understanding. Ki Yisachar was a wise man. The Siv Uvnei Yisachar, from the sons of Yisachar, Yodei Bina Leitim, understood. They understood the issues of the times. Ladas Mayas Yisrael, to know what the Jews should do. So Rashi says Chamor Goram Mitagma Atir ben Nechsen, and Yosef Ikri Shor B'chor Shoro Hadar Lo. So that's the pasuk about Yosef. So bizocha to the blessings of Yisachar, of Yosef and Yisachar, whether it's the good things that they had or simply, in case of Yosef, the ability to kill the enemies. We should be zocha to that. And the Bnei Yisachar, who were men of understanding. So now we've had that finishes the first parak. So now we've completed about 10% of Bava Kama. We said that 10 parakim Bava Kama, 10 Bava Metzia, 10 Bava Vastra. Now we start the second parak. Case at a regel muedes. How is the regel? Said the regel is a mued. Regel we know has what characteristic? That Karen is unusual, right? But it's done with the intention. Karen is the idea that it's unusual until he's a mued. But it's still something that the animal doesn't normally do. But it also has the characteristic that the animal did it on purpose. The case of regel, he's a mu'eh, meaning it's as if he's forewarned that you know that automatically he does this, but he's only chayiv in somebody else's rishus. And the animal's allowed to go in rishus harabim. If he steps on things or hits things just in the normal course of events, walking through rishus harabim, he's not chayiv. So case of regel mu'edes, how is he a mu'eh? How is it considered like he's forewarned that it's normal for him to do that? L'shavar b'derech hilucha. One is to break something while he's walking. Now, some have that put a question mark after case of the regel muedes, and then he says, "How was he mued l'shavar b'derech hilucha?" From Rashi, it's not mashma that way. Case of the regel is komer ma regel es l'shavar b'derech hilucha, komer b'kachi. Case of the regel muedes. So he says, you could say that, and I wouldn't say maybe that's maybe how Rashi understands it too. How was he a mu'eh? He's a mu'eh to break things while he's walking. Then the next line goes, and this is going to be, it seems redundant. Behema mu'edes, the behema is a mu'eh, meaning it's normal for him to do that. He's considered forewarned. Lahalach gedarka, to walk in its normal way. Well, the shamber, and to break things. Now, isn't that redundant? The first line and the second line seem to say the same thing. That's how was he mu'eh? To break things away, he's walking. Then the second line says, how? To walk in this way and break. So it seems to be saying the same thing. The Gemara is going to deal with that problem. The Rashi also says, to break the way he walks. But the second line seems to say the same thing as the first line. So the Gemara will talk about that. Let's say the animal did something that was not normal. It wasn't just walking along and stepping on things. It was kicking. Well, kicking is already like Karen. That's not normal. So if he kicked and he broke something and he was a tom, he hadn't yet been warned after 3 different times, then he only pays half. That's chatzin ezek. Or pebbles shot out, right? Flew out from under its feet, right? V'shavras and broke kalim, misham chatzinezik. Now, in both cases, it's chatzinezik, but Rashi is careful to point out that the first case, if he kicked directly, let's say he kicked something, he kicked another animal, he kicked something and broke something on purpose directly, then it's chatzinezek, which is a told of keren. That's not a knas. In the case of his power, meaning he stepped on pebble and it flew out and broke something, he didn't do it directly. He also makes chatzinezek, but that chatzinezek is sroros. And we learned the other day, we're going to talk about it today, that chatzinezek, sroros, is a told of regel, but it's a but it's not a knas, it's mamo, meaning I think I said a reverse before. In the case of keren, if he kicked something, that's not normal. So that's keren. It's like a gourd. It's not normal for him to do that. And he did it on purpose. He was kicking or he was goring with his. That's not normal. So if he's a tam, it's chatzinezik, but that's a knas, as we came out the other day, that it's not that he really owes the whole thing, but we give him a break. No, shouldn't know anything because the owner didn't know that. Should be more careful. If it's knas, if it's mammon, if he's motive knas before Adam came, is he potter or not? So if it's nezek, if it's a told of keren, then chatzi nezek is a knas, and if he's motive before Adam came, he's potter. Smart, he'll be motive to it. If it's the second case, not where he was kicking, but rather he was walking along and a pebble shot out from under his foot, then we'll see what happened there. That's sroros, and that's mamo. That's Allah Sinai, even though it's normal for him to do that, but he doesn't pay nezek. Shomi chatzi nezek sroros is only, it's Allah Sinai that's only, it only pays half, but it's mamo. So even if he's moda, he's still chayiv to pay. So these two cases are different. That's kicking, that's keren. Moda b'knas is potter, because that's chatzi nezek. That's chatzi nezek is of keren. Sroros is chatzi nezek of regel, meaning it's normal for him to do that. He didn't intentionally throw a rock or kick it to some direction. He was walking along and the thing shot out from under his foot. By stepping on it, he caused it to go out, and then he pays chatzi nezek. But that's mama. Now the difference between is it direct or is it indirect? We'll see that on the base. We're going to talk about that. By sroros, it's not a direct damage from the animal. It's his power caused it. In other words, it was his force that caused it. By stepping on the rock shot out, but he didn't directly cause it. That's not mina between sroros or direct power. Just like, let's say the animal simply tread upon a kli and broke it. That's regel. V'nafal kli, and then he fell on a kli. V'shavro. On the first case where he stepped on it, that's nezek shalim. If he did it in somebody, all this regel is only chayiv in somebody else's reshus, and then nezek reshus. So if he stepped on it and broke it, pays nezek shalim. Achar mishalim chatzi nezek. On the second one, he fell on it, and he only pays chatzi nezek. Why? Because when he fell on it, that's not normal to do it that way. So when he fell on it, Rishon, right? Rishon nezek regel mishamas kula. Achar na'idei tzroros nishbar hilka chatzi nezek. It was his power, but it wasn't his action that caused it directly. He fell on darsal kli b'shavro, so v'nafal al kli b'shavro, and he broke on it and he fell on it. So that's like his power did it, with power, but he didn't directly cause it by stepping on it. That's considered sroros. A ton of gold. What about chickens? They're also animals. They're more l'halach kedarkim. They normally walk around, will shaver and break things. If they step on something small, they'll break it. So that would be regel. If you put your chicken on somebody else's property and he stepped on something, you're chayiv nezek shalom. Let's say he had some sort of a ribbon or a string got attached to his foot, right? And or he was hopping around and he broke kalim because it shot out, right? Also, Rashi says the drill that's also throwers because it wasn't his direct action. It was something that he caused. It was caused by his power. Obviously, if the chicken wouldn't have been there, wouldn't have broken. But he didn't do it directly with his foot. He had something attached to his foot. I did. He is also going to about throw shavros akalim. In other words, not if he hopped on it directly and broke on it, but he hopped on it and it shot out. It flew out from under his foot. That's throwers. So again, we'll see more about throwers now when I'm at base. But the idea of throwers is, like Rashi points out in several places, the Gemara is going to say it also. Whatever is it comes from his power, but not from his body directly. That's throwers. If it came directly from his body, so it's really, is it direct or is it indirect? That's the way of looking at it. Only being a Rava. Eine Regel, eine Bema. Let's go. The first two lines of the Mishnah again. I mentioned when we learned the Mishnah. Case of a Regel Moedes, Lishbor the Derech Hilucha. How is a Regel Moed? It breaks things when it's walking. Then it says Habeim Moedes, Lach Deyar Shaber. Same thing. What's the difference between the first line and the second line? From once he says Regel, and then he says Behemoth, it's telling the same thing. I'll tell you, the first one is talking about Avos Ezekiel. Right? But when he broke something as he was walking with his feet. And then he said the Tolos. What are the Tolos of Regel? Regel, Mamash, he stepped on it. The Tolos of Regel is, we'll see, we mentioned it before also. For example, he was walking along, and with the bulk of his body, he broke a glass or something, or the animal's hair hit something and broke, or he had a load on its back, and as he was walking, he broke something, a load or a saddle or whatever, or a bell, whatever was part of his body or attached to his body, broke something in his normal manner. The animal had no intention of breaking anything, but that's how it happened. It wasn't with his feet. So that's the toldos. So he says one refers to avos. The first line is the avos, and the second line is the toldos. Case of the regel, that's the avos. And then he said, Behemba Moedes. He's really talking about regel, but he's talking about the toldos. Elamiat the Sefer. Well, wait a second. Look 2 pages on your Testament base. We have the same thing there, but it's talking about Shane. First we talk about regel, then we talk about Shane. What does it say in the Mishnah? Look at the Mishnah in your Testament base. Case that Hashem Moedes. Lechas Aroila. It's a moed to eat what it's roy for it. Abehema Moedes lechel peres v'yokas. Then he goes also. Abehema Moedes lechel peres v'yokas. It also eats, the fruits and vegetables that it normally eats, but it doesn't eat the, clothing or kalim and stuff like that. So there also we have a double phrase. What is a moed to eat what's roy for? And then he says abehema Moedes lechel peres v'yokas. Well, that's also, there you have the same problem. It's a double, that you're saying the same thing twice. There you're talking about eating. The tolda of Shane is, remember, what's the tolda of Shane? When he rubbed himself against the wall, right? Because remember, the characteristic of Shane is that he gets pleasure. He's eating something, right? The animal is doing it on purpose, not to damage. He's doing it to get pleasure. Same thing with beef. His back is itching, so he'll scratch himself against the wall, and then the wall fell down. Caused the wall to fall down. So he did damage while the animal was trying to get some pleasure. That's a tolda. But that's not what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah is talking about eating. He eats the things that he normally eats, and then he says, what's the second phrase? You don't say that's tolda. It says lechel peres ruckus. That's also, they're both of us over there. My avos or my tolda zika. If you want to say that, and it doesn't say, our Mishnah doesn't use the word avos or toldas b'chlal. You want to say that the first phrase, Kate of Regel Moedes, that's avos. The second phrase, very nice. That's tolos. What are you going to say when it comes to Shane? Where they're both talking about avos there. Elameyat the sefer the Tani Hashem Moedes Habehema Moedes my avos my tolosika. So when Ravine asked this to Rava answered him like jokingly. But I'm like, I answered the first one. I told you the first. In the case of Regel, our Mishnah that we just learned, the first line is avos, the second one is tolos. And you explain the second one. I explained the first one. The first one we explained by saying the first phrase is avos, the second phrase is toldos. It doesn't work in the second Mishnah about Shane. You try to explain that. But time am I? What's taka? What taka is the explanation in the second Mishnah on your Testament base? We don't want to wait till then. We got to wait till 2 more days to find that out. We want to know the answer now. The time am I? Amar Vashi, Tana Shane Dechayev V'Ktani Shen Behema. Say it was. The first phrase when he says "Kate said Hashem Moedes Lechel Esaroila," that's chaya. That's a wild animal. If you have a wild animal, it could be a deer or something like that. We don't mean an animal that you have no reshus over. That's more. If you have an animal like a deer, like a chaya, that's there's shame there. And also the behema Moedes. The second phrase is a behema. That's second behema. The first phrase is chaya. Second one is behema. That's his answer. Time I Amar Ravashi. Pardon? Yeah. But that was talking about. No, you're right. Only Rabbi Elazar made a difference between domesticated and non. But in any case, there we were talking about. You could say we were talking about Shane there too, right? Because they eat or they devour or whatever, right? But it makes it. You could say, what do you need this whole Mishnah, this whole parak is a continuation of the first one. There we say the Mishnah that let's assume you're right that those that we mentioned all those animals that that are muadin, right? If you have an animal, if you have a wolf or a lion or whatever, you have one of these animals, then you're chayiv if you take him into somebody else's property. And now he says, now the Mishnah is explaining how are you a muad. Now, there we referred a lot of in the first paragraph. We learned a lot about this. You could say this whole Mishnah. What does this Mishnah teach us? Okay, he talks about sroros, but he's just telling you how is he a muad. He's explaining the details. He breaks the way he walks. He breaks things the way he walks. The damages when he walks. In New Testament base, the Mishnah about Shane also is telling you how is a muad to do things that he normally eats. That's what he says. But he said, what's roy for him? And a behemoth is also, what's roy for him? Fruits and vegetables. Fine. They're both of us. Oh, I'll tell you what. The first phrase, case of a Shane, is talking about chayas. Even though we mentioned chayas, you're right, we mentioned chayas already in the first parak. But now he's telling you both chayas and behemoths are only chayiv when they eat things that they normally eat. That's what Shane is. He's just giving you the detailed definition of what Shane is. I might think so. Wait a minute. Why do you have to tell me both? Animals are animals. What's the difference if they're behemah chaya? I think with shilach es beiro. The pasuk says the pasuk that talks about Shane says if you send your beiro, you'll be a b'steacher, right? He says kiaver ish sado kerem v'shilach es beiro. What is beiro? Beiro means an animal. Kulam moshe behemah. That means an animal. Rashi says it over here. Also in Rashi, beiro hainu targum shel behemah. A behemah, the translation of beiro, even though it is targum, he doesn't mean that it's not necessarily Hebrew because it's a pasuk beiro. So it's obviously usually there's a few cases where there's Aramaic in the Torah, but usually it's Hebrew. Vashilach has beiro, and that's in ksiv. It says beiro. That means behemah. Behemah ain't chayalo. Maybe only chayav on behemah, and chayav on chayav. What's the logic behind it? I don't know. Maybe chayas can't be tamed or whatever, or whatever the reason is. I would think you only chayav behemah, not chayav. Kamashnuam, the chayav b'chol behemah. Chayav is included in behemah, as we find when it comes to talking about what are kosher animals, what we call kosher, which means animals which are tahor. Says those of behemah sher tochelu. These are the animals that you can eat, and he explains to them ayal v'tzvi v'yachmor, including ayal v'tzvi v'yachmor. Ayal is a ram. That's a behemah, but tzvi is a deer. Yachmor, those are wild animals. So tell you that chai is included in behemah also. So you should have said that first, right? Why did you say chaya first? If you say the one phrase is for chaya, one's for behemah, the first one is chaya, right? And the second one is behemah. So why didn't you mention, since the pasuk says behemah, right? Because it says shilachas beiro, like we had before. What is an av and what is a tolda? An av is one that's mentioned beferish in the Torah. So why don't you mention that first? You should have said that first, because that's the one that because that's the one that's mentioned in the Torah. The answer is we have the same thing in the Gemara beginning of Yavamas. The ones that he learned out of a drasha are more dear to him. In other words, if it didn't say beferish, so he said that one first. So in our Mishnah, why don't you say the one that says it's like beferish? Meaning, in our Mishnah, where you said the first phrase is avos and the second phrase is toldos. So the first phrase avos that you learned out, the pasuk of mashacha regel shalas a pasuk. So why don't you say the ones you learn out from a drasha first? Why don't you say that first in our Mishnah that we just learned out on Malach? It's to say the ones that aren't mentioned in the Torah first, the ones that you learn out as told. This is Hachi also, maybe in the Mishnah in New Testament base when it talks about Shane, we're talking about both of them are avos. Whether a chaya eats fruits or a behemoth eats fruits, things that are right for it, they're both avos. So hachta asil midrasha b'chavivuleh. He'd rather say the one that he learned from a drasha. He'd rather say one first that's more dear to him. But over here, when our Mishnah, we're talking about avos and toldos. Avos are the ones with favorish. We're going to mention avos first. The Tani tolda. First we mention av, and then we mention tolda. Not the one that learned out of a drasha. If you have avos and toldos, you first say avos, then the toldos. If they're both the same, they're both equal, they're both avos. So you'll say the one that you learned out of a drasha first. Ibai seima, I do solik regel plus regel. The Mishnah, it's really our Mishnah on Tesvav base that Michael that you just referred to with the animals. All the animals that are listed there, and then Rav Loza talks about if it's domesticated, they're not muadin. That's what you meant there. That Mishnah, that's the Mishnah, probably the Mishnah on Tes Zayin Base. Yesterday's Mishnah is probably a continuation because it says there are 5 toms and 5 muads, and then he talks about a regel muedas lishbor b'derech chilucha. That's the one. That's what the Mishnah says. A regel muedas lishbor b'derech chilucha. So since he says regel over there, so he prefers to start our Mishnah also with kates that are regular rather than kates that are behema. Our Mishnah that we just learned on Yud Zayin and Aleph. We said now the kates that are regular that refers to avos, and a behema that refers to toldos. Why doesn't he say the toldos first? Okay, one answer is because avos and toldos, avos should come first. The other answer is he just talked about regel on the previous Mishnah on Tesvav on the days, so he mentioned also he starts since we're just on my regel, he says kates that are regular. That's right, first to start kates that are regular, which refers to the avos. I do something regel, possibly starts regel. Tanrabat. A behema, let's go to the general category again. A behema is a mu'ay to walk in the normal way that it walks and breaks. An animal, when it walks, breaks things. In Rosh Hashanah, he's allowed to walk. If you left your stuff in Rosh Hashanah, you're tough luck. You don't have to pay. The pasuk says, "Ki yevar ish saro keren." If you send your animal, you send your animal and he damages in somebody else's property, you have to pay because he normally case that case of behema. Case that. What's an example of this? An animal. My animal went into your chutzner, into your courtyard. The zika begufa, and he damaged with his body. That means he stepped on something. Derech hilucha while it was walking. Uvesara derech hilucha. So we said with its feet, that's a But the told us also if it, let's say, it damaged with its hair, right? Let's say it was a horse and a lot of hair on it or whatever. Some animal had a lot of hair, or a sheep with its wool, whatever. The ukav shaleh with a saddle on its back, the shil shaleh, the load on its back, from Yishurapia, the bit in its mouth, the suk shabasrar, a bell hanging from its neck, the chamor b'maso, or a donkey with its load. Mishalem nezek shalom, he pays the nezek shalom, right? That's the translation of regel. If you send your animal to somebody else's field and he does damage either by walking on it or by any part of its body, but it's its direct body that did it. Something, either his body or something on his body, that's a direct damage. Pay nezek shalom. Sumkos Omer, Sumkos says sroros v'chazir shaya nover v'ashma. If let's say sroros, again, what's the definition of sroros? It flew out from under his foot, or a chazir that was burrowing in a dung heap, a garbage dump. Chazers do that. Behizik, and he does damage. Misham nezek shalom. He also pays nezek shalom. Does Gemara hizik pshita? It says chazer shayinov b'ashma behizik. If he did damage directly while he was burrowing, walking around there, of course he has to pay pshita. That's obviously pays nezek shalom. Ela ema hitiz behizik misham nezek. If the animal, either sroros, which is we said is it flew out from under his foot, or while he was burrowing, it also caused it to fly out. Notice a pig was burrowing in a garbage dump, and as he stuck his head in there, something shot out from his force and did damage. Pays nezek shalom. That's what Sarasman hit this basic. Misham nezek pays nezek shalom according to Sumchas. And we said before, Sroros only pays half. Sroros. So first of all, it says who's talking about Sroros? The Mishnah was talking about, we said examples. Tanrabanim Abraisa. What's an example of Rego? When he's walking along in a normal way and he does damage with his body. However he did it, donkey, an animal, whatever he does damage with his body or something on his body, pays. Then Sumcha says, Sroros, or a chazir, that was burrowing in a heap. And he did damage with Sroros by his force, by something shot out either from his foot or from the beak of the pig's, whatever you call that, his nose, whatever.
Snout.
It's the snout, right? His snout. He also pays nezek shalom. So the first Gemara says, who mentioned anything about Sroros? Why is Simchas bringing up Sroros? Sroros Mandakashma. Who mentioned anything about Sroros? Surah Mesris, missing from the Mishnah bit from the Bryce Vachtai. Sroros kiruchayu chatzinesek. If he walks along, does damage with his body or something on his body in the normal course of his walking, he pays full amount. If it's with Sroros, if it's from his force, not his direct body, he pays half. The chazer she'enover ba'ashba behitis behizik. Also, Mishalim Dechatzinezek. He didn't do direct damage with his feet or his body or his snout, but rather as he was snouting in there, it shot out. Sumchas Omer Sroros v'chazer she'enover ba'ashba behitis Mishalim Nezek Shalom. He pays full amount. Why? Because Sumchas doesn't hold of that. Halach l'Moshe Misinai. Sumchas holds, says Rashi, Sumchas, take a look at Rashi, even with Gilyon Hashas on the side. Sumchas less hilchos of the Chatzinezek Sroros. He doesn't know that halacha mashma sina. He doesn't know that. Elenezek shalom spherulay. Yes.
This question is how you prepare the positive.
Yeah, so I was thinking the same thing.
Who's raising pigs?
So
who's raising pigs? Yeah. Who owns it? Yeah. Well, simplest one.
He's a town. He's in there to Israel.
Yeah. Okay. Could be. Yeah. So maybe they were raising it for other purposes, not for, or maybe he wasn't raising ones. Maybe just somebody gave him one. Somebody gave him one. He's not. The answer is to raise them, right? To raise them. You shouldn't raise them. But maybe they were needed or something or whatever, or they were selling it. He was going to sell it to a guy, whatever it was. It happened. Let's say the same thing with chickens. Let's say chickens, they were flying from one place to another. As they were flying, now animals walk, birds fly. Now let's say as he's flying and he's flapping along, he damaged something with his wings. Because that's his normal way of getting about, flying. And let's say though, again, it wasn't directly with this body with the wing. It was the wind that the wings pushed, or the vibration. It wasn't direct. It wasn't directly by the wing. It was something he caused, like an airplane that has a lot of, you feel the power, feel the wind. So the wind that was there. Then he pays chatzin nezek, because that's considered sroros. Again, Rashi explains, kol ma she'ukocho below gufo is called soros. If it's his body, if it's his power, it went through his force, but not as directly as goof. Same thing with either a pig burrowing in the ground. I guess they use a pig because those are the ones who burrow in the dung heap. Maybe the cows don't usually do that or whatever. So masham chatzin esek. So again, if it's with not direct force, that's called soros and pays chatzin esek. Sumchas omer, with the first of the wide lines in the Gemara. Because again, Sumchas doesn't hold of the halacha mashmi Sinai that chatzin nezek is sroros. Tanya idach. Now both of them, whether the whole chatzin nezek sroros or whether the whole like Sumchas that you pay nezek shalom, either case it's mama. So it's not knas, and that's halacha mashmi Sinai. The chatzin nezek sroros pays half nezek, but it's mama. So moda b'knas would not get you off the hook. Tanya idach. Another brayso says Tana gon shoyim hadsin al gabe isa. Let's say animals now, these chickens were not the case of the Mishnah where he was jumping around and something shot out. He was jumping around al-gavisa on dough, or al-gavi peiros, and or peiros for tinfu, and he got them dirty or nikro, or he put holes in them. They picked at him, because that's direct damage, and that's direct damage. That's a tolda of rego, or it's more than told. It's directly rego, right? He was jumping, walking around. And did damage in the thing in the way they normally walk around. That's what time to go and do. They jump around. If they jumped around on it, he had some dough there, and he jumped around. That's what he would do. So he paid that sham. Hello offer. Let's say though, by jumping around, he caused some dust to rise up, or throwers, or some pebbles to shoot at. Then sham chatzin nezek. Sumchas omer nezek shalom. Again, the same thing. Sumchas says in throwers, there's no hanacha, you don't get off. There's no dispensation for sroros for your koach. It's the same thing. And the more to explain it out. Another price says tanagol shayim mafriach, a chicken that was flying around from place to place, and some wind flew out from under its wings, and the wind broke the kalim. Sham chatzin nezek, right? Pays half nezek. This price doesn't bring down sumchas at all. Stama, it's a stam mishnah, goes like the rabbanan, well, the chatzin nezek throwers pays half. Amarabba. Bishlam is sumchas. I understand sumchas ksava kocha kugufadam. He holds there's no difference if you did it directly with your body, the animal's body, chicken, donkey, pig, whatever. Bishlam is sumchas ksava kocha kugufo. It makes a difference if it's your body or your power caused it to happen. Elo rabbanan. I understand the rabbanan. Ikugufadami. If it's like the goof, the same thing. So kulam nezek b'yisham, you should pay the whole amount. If it's not like it's goof, chatzin nezek nam l'sham. In other words, if your power is like your body, then you should pay the whole amount. Why do you only have to pay half? And if your power is not like your body, you shouldn't pay anything. It was like an accident. I don't remember that. One says no, it is kugufa dummy in the sense that motor b'knas is not potter, right? Not potter. But the chatzin nezek sroros also like miralei, like we explained before. It's halacha mashmi Sinai. that the Torah said that the power of the animal, if it's not direct, only pays half, but it's still mamon, it's not knas. Amar Rabba, kosher b'zav tamei. Now, how do you explain it in an example? If a zav, a person who has gonorrhea and he's tamei, kosher b'zav tamei, anything that he's matame benazak masham nezek sham. Meaning, if a zav touches you or touches something, it's even more even if he's necessarily tough. But if it's by touch, then that makes you tamei. By nazikin, when it comes to damages, if it's direct, touched you, pays full amount. Kosher b'zav tor. Let's say a zav threw a rock at somebody. So then the person would not be tamei if he didn't touch the zav. Zav didn't touch him. So in the case where he's tor, okay, nice example, Rabba. The Rabba tzroros slash mina. Is he just a mina of tzroros? We already have the zav of tzroros. Give an example with a zav. Just like if a zav touches something, you're tamei, and if he doesn't touch it, you're not tamei. So the same thing by nezikin. If it was direct, pay nezek shalom. If it's not direct, chatz nezek. So is Rabba teaching me a of tzroros? Look, Rabba. Egla Mosheches B'Karim Mash. He's teaching us different. He's teaching us this. Let's say an animal was walking along, right, but he was pulling a wagon, and the wagon broke the item. That's what he's telling me. That's considered direct, right? That's considered direct because if a zav was sitting in a wagon, and the wagon went over something, the wagon that would be considered direct, and the person and the thing underneath the wagon, under the wheel of the wagon, would be considered tamei. The same thing over here by Nezikin. That if an animal was walking along and dragging a wagon, pulling a wagon, that would also be considered direct damage in Chayav Regel. Behema is a mu'ed to break the way it normally walks, like our Mishnah said. Kay said Behema, yeah, and this price is more expensive. Behema went into a chatzar, a nizik, Vizika, Bagufa, and damage with its body, Derechiluch, while it was walking, or Vasara, Derechiluch, we said that's like a tolder with its hair, Vukav Shaleh, with the saddle on it, Shlif Shaleh, the load on it from Yishapia, the bit in its mouth, or the bell around its neck, Chamar Maso, or a donkey with its load, the Egla Mosheches Bekaran, or a calf pulling a wagon. See, the first part of the brisa we had in the other above, it might have been the same brisa, but everything was direct. But here we add on more. The Egla Mosheches Bekaran. Mishal Nezik Shalom, that's considered direct. That's what he's teaching.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
In the example above where Rabba said a Zav throws a rock, he pays Nezik Shalom because he's becoming the person.
No. We're not talking about damage there. We're not talking about paid Nezik Shalom. We're saying that a Zav, just like a Zav, if he touches something, he's Tameh, and if the equivalent would be by an animal that touches something, you pay nesek shalem. If a zav, just like if a zav doesn't touch the person, doesn't touch him directly, but it just threw something at him, he's not matamehim. In the same way, in cases of damages, we're not talking about if a zav did the damage. We're not talking about mixing two things. He's just giving an example and saying the same way, if an animal damaged somebody else, damaged some other property of yours, without directly touching it, it was like throw-us, then he pays only, he doesn't pay Nesek Shalom. Just give an example.
Whether he's coming or not, he throws a rock at somebody.
No. Forget the rock. He threw a piece of paper at somebody. We're not talking about damages. It's just an example. We're going to example. Rabba said, any case where a Zav would be Matame somebody, that means he touched thing. When it comes to Nezikin, in a similar case, where there was touching involved in Ezekiel, you pay Nesek Shalom if there was damage. And in a case where if a Zav touched somebody but indirectly, he didn't touch him, he threw a rubber band at him, there's no damage. We're not talking about damage. We're just saying in a case where a Zav, we're talking about tumah. In a case where a Zav would not be Matami the other person, because he didn't touch him. In the case of Nezikin, if he didn't touch him, if there was Nezek, we'd only pay Chatzi Nezek. It's not that the Zav is nothing, it's an analogy. The Zav has nothing to do with damage. Tanaraban. Let's say you had some chickens who were picking at a rope, and the rope was holding a bucket. The Chevel Deli, the Nifsek Chevel, he was picking at. In other words, he broke the chickens picked at the rope until it broke. And then the bucket broke. That's considered direct because it's directly his power. He picked at it until it broke. Then he's chayav, even though he picked at the rope, but the rope was attached to the bucket. Boy, Rabba Darsa al Kli. Listen to this one. let's say he was jumping on a kli, let's say he was jumping on a barrel. That didn't break the barrel. And the Skalgo Makamachar, and then the barrel, but he pushed the barrel and it went down the road and it broke and it hit the wall down there, right? So Vinishmer broke. Mao. Plus do you look at his he pushed the barrel. So that was his direct damage. Of a gufa, it's considered gufa and pain nesek shalimu. Odima basar tavar monazi, and you look where it was broken. In other words, it was broken by the wall down there, right? I didn't do it direct. I didn't break it directly. I pushed it down there, and then it broke when it hit the wall. How do you see that? Is that direct or indirect? So Tifshla mit Rabba. So Rabba asked this question. So we posted Rabba. Rabba brought a case like this. Rabba, listen to Zara Kli Rosh Hagag. I threw something from the top of a roof. Before it hit the ground, I threw a glass down from the roof. Before it hit the ground, somebody else was standing there with a baseball bat, and he saw it, and he broke it with his baseball bat, direct on purpose or not. Okay, what's the halacha there? Potter. The guy below is potter. He said, listen, the guy with the bat, what he broke was a broken glass. The glass was going to break in another split second, right? So, in other words, you look at the original guy, he threw it. He was the one who broke it, not the bat.
What if he missed it, then it broke?
Either, well, if he missed it for sure, he wouldn't be chayav. The question is the guy with the bat chayav? The guy with the bat is not chayav because what he broke was a broken thing. It's like you shot a dead person. You're not chayav because it was dead already, right? So here was also what he broke it. That's what Rabbah said. So about Moshe, so he posted from there. If the animal pushed the barrel down, hit the wall, it was the animal who pushed it. He did the damage. The Gemara says, yeah. Why? Because the Rabbah pshitale, right? Rabbah would hold that the person who threw it, the person who threw the glass, or the person or the animal that pushed the barrel down the hill, he thought would be chayav. The Rabbah pshitale, but the Rabbah wasn't sure. So Tashma, we're going to try to bring proofs. This will even the Gemara's Gemara. Tashma, he does in a moed. If a chicken jumps around, a bird jumps around, he's not mu'id. The Yesham Harazim, some say it is a mu'id. He just salted that. What do you mean it's not a mu'id? Am I what a mu'id? That's his normal what he does. That he's a mu'id for that. He jumps around. What do you mean? Elav hidas for hidas. Maybe you may be speaking about if he jumps around and that causes pebbles to shoot out. If a chicken or a bird jumps around, it's going to cause things to fly out. Welcome, Mifki. Marsav Basam Karzin, Marsav Basam Tavaran. Maybe that's machlokas. Is he a mu'ay, meaning that he's a mu'ay that's considered that he's causing damage directly? And one says no. You look at Marsav, you look at Marsav Tavar Mozart. You look at where it broke, and maybe that's is that poshik the shaila? Is it? Do you look at the beginning where he's jumping around, or do you look at it when the pebbles that shot out broke something? It says low. The heat is throws, maybe he's talking about there is, you're right, he is talking about an animal that jumps around and things shot out, but the question is, heat is throws, the question is is that considered a mu'ay who looked at the simplest rabbanim kemiflagi? Meaning, the Tanakamu says, not that it's basar mikar, but the one who says heat is a mu'ay, when a tashma heat is a mu'ay, and marsav heat is a mu'ay, he's a mu'ay, and therefore, according to Sumchus, he's chayiv nezek sholim. That's the machlokas of here. Is he a fake nezek sholim, or is he not a mu'id? It's simply tzroros, even though an animal is a mu'id for tzroros. That's the machlokas. Rashi says, top Rashi, about tzroros shavra kalim ulo naga b'kli mandam or mu'id suffer like sometimes mu'id pays and he pays the full amount. He doesn't hold the tzroros pay half amount. Mandam or ain't a mu'id suffer like rabbanan. Even though it didn't say it the favorish, that's how you can explain it. So this question, if my animal went and pushed your barrel down the road until it hit a rock or a wall and then it broke, is it direct and I would have to pay the full amount, or is it considered tzroros? It was only his power, according to the Rabbanan. We don't know, like some people like the Rabbanan, it was only his power, you only pay half. That's the question that Rava had. According to Rava, it's very simple, that it's definitely his power, it's definitely the animal pushed it. It's like throwing the glass off the roof and somebody hit it with a bat. The guy with the bat is not chayiv because he broke, what he broke was already considered broken, because the guy who threw it is considered responsible. All right, we'll pick him here tomorrow. Let's show more proofs about this child.
Yeah.
Shavua Tov.